All right, good evening. This is the Town of Monroe Board of Finance regular meeting. Today is Thursday, March 19th, 2026. The time is 6:03 p.m. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and made available on the town's website in accordance with Connecticut state law. I'm going to proceed with our roll call. Steve Kirsch.
Present.
Dee Stelmack.
Present.
Sam Spino.
Present.
Thank you. Catherine Stoffer. She would be online. No?
I will check.
Okay. Nick Sentimentes. They both had emergencies this afternoon, so they weren't sure if they were going to be able to call in. Okay. Terry Rooney.
Here.
Joe Kobza.
Here.
Ron Banofsky.
Here.
Heidi Mead.
Here.
Deb Heim.
Here.
Frank Duchess.
Here.
All right, before we get further into our agenda, I just want to take a moment to explain for those that are here in the room, as well as those who are listening remotely, that this is our first meeting since receiving the budget from Town Council. So we will be setting a public hearing as well as our budget workshops later in the agenda, but there's no action that's being taken on the budget tonight. The Board of Finance will return the budget to the first selectman by April 20th. So I just want to be sure that everybody here understands all of that. And with that said, we're going to proceed with our agenda. So do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented?
I move to accept the meeting minutes of February 19th, 2026. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Got to do it by roll call. Sam's on.
Okay, so Steve?
Yes.
Dee?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes. All right, next up is our first selectman's communications.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing to really report in operations other than we're still waiting on the final numbers for snow plowing.
Okay.
So we had a late storm, so we're just doing some calculations there. As you know, we went over what was allotted in the budget last year, but we have the emergency fund, which we are using. Somebody's alarm is going off. I'm wondering if it's mine. Anyway, but I do have a letter to the honorable members of the Board of Finance. This administration understands the frustration, disappointment, and anger many feel about the reduction of the proposed increase to our education budget. When it comes to our children's future, emotions run deep, as they should. Monroe has long been a town that prides itself on creating opportunities for the next generation. Through our robust education system, and my family and I have benefited from those efforts. Since taking office, I've made it a daily priority to engage with our residents. Monroe is blessed to have a passionate and diverse cultural, political, and financial demographic. While I often hear many passionate opinions, especially during budget seasons, two stand out. Those who want their property taxes reduced, and those who want more money invested in education. Although many people who implore this office for tax reductions do not publicly, many have asked me to share their concerns. And that message is simply, property taxes are too high. Living in town is becoming unaffordable. This is not a new challenge for the town, and the budget process, by its nature, will not satisfy everyone. Over the last several budget cycles, Monroe has faced rising costs, growing infrastructure demands, and insufficient state funding. Pressures that have impacted the town more than anticipated. Furthermore, the state mandated reevaluation at a time where residential property values skyrocketed, impacted folks at an unexpected level and resulting in a material increase in housing costs, causing many to be unable to financially maintain the homes they have lived in for decades. I was elected by this town to control taxation. As a result, This administration has been forced to make difficult decisions that no one wants to make. In the face of these challenges, this administration has fought to find a proper balance between increased costs and the resulting tax burden to save taxpayer money while delivering the services our residents have become accustomed to. This administration has been creative in its engagement of a grant writer to supplement more than $700,000 in revenue for the benefit of both the education and municipal budgets. This administration started an in-house paving program to reduce expensive projects such as the Animal Control Facility and the future Community Center. This administration has fought to save taxpayer money and will continue that fight in years to come. As Board of Finance members, you play a critical role in the budget-making process. The challenges I describe are not a surprise to any of you, and as such, you understand that this reduction was not made lightly, nor was it made in isolation. However, a reduction in any increase is not a reduction in our commitment. Recently, many important metrics driving this budget have gained clarity. Health insurance premiums dropped from a budgeted projection of 15% to actuals of 12.5%, as just conveyed to us by the state. This results in an approximate savings of $250,000 for education and $80,000 for the municipal side of this budget. Because the state has underfunded excess costs by about $2.9 million in just the last 5 years alone, I demanded clarification from the state for this coming fiscal year. It was no surprise that it's anticipated that the state will underfund excess costs in the amount of $717,000 for fiscal year 26-27. The projection of the 26-27 budget calculation shows almost 70% of every Monroe taxpayer dollar being allocated to education. Through hundreds of hours of diligence and collaboration, the 26-27 budget was determined to be the best and most responsible path forward. Folks, this is not a political debate. It is simply facts that no longer can be ignored. You want some good news in all of this? Hartford is now listening. As your first selectman, I recognize our town is at a crucial crossroad. We are seeing new and exciting development interest in Monroe with our current mill rate at 28.67. One objective of this budget was to keep Monroe competitive to attract business investment. A mill rate below 30 is well recognized as being optimal for business investment, the only sustainable way to grow our grand list and meaningfully manage our tax burden. As I said before, this administration must strike a balance between several competing variables in our town. Our job is to build budgets grounded in current facts and data while considering the voices of our taxpayers and all of you. As the budget process continues, Board of Education Chairman Dennis Condon, Superintendent Joe Cobson, and Director of Municipal and Education Finance Ron Bonofsky have committed to an examination of the underlying budgetary challenges, which will continue to be invaluable to crucial decision-making during this ongoing process. The challenges facing education, increases in insurance premiums, contractual labor increases, and unfunded state mandates are understood by this administration. This administration has reduced the municipal budget through daily operational awareness, the use of grant funds, the police private duty funds. The goal of this in every budget is to motivate our department heads, boards, and commissions to explore budgetary efficiencies that could be realized through examination to help strengthen public trust in prioritized and responsible spending within the town, including the Board of Education. It is important for all of you present here today to understand it's important for all of you to understand that I hear the community, and I want you to know we're all in this together. Therefore, considering the financial pressures imposed upon our community by the state, including continued shortfalls in funding, and upon collaboration with and support from our Superintendent Joe Cobsa, as your First Selectman, I support the Board of Finance to adjust my original reduction of 1,603,230 to 403, $230. This allows our town to vote. That's the greatest freedom we have, is our voice and our ability to vote. Let's see how it happens on May 5th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Superintendent Communications, Joe.
I have to follow that.
You have to follow.
Well, first, I just thank you very much. I've been talking to the First Selectman a lot recently. But first of all, I want to also just thank the tremendous outpouring of support for Monroe Public Schools over, it's been a very challenging budget process. As the First Selectman was talking about, this is not something that is isolated to Monroe. This is playing itself out in districts all over the state right now. I'm glad we continue to communicate and look very forward to continuing this process as it moves on to the next level with the Board of Finance. That is a huge help back to our district and back to our mission of teaching and learning in Monroe Public Schools and offering the kind of education that I was privileged to get, my kids were privileged to get, and I want all the folks in here, children to get as well. So thank you very much, and we will continue to collaborate. I appreciate the open communication with this board as well. As we move forward with the workshop process, I know we're going to talk a lot about numbers in the coming weeks. I know tonight is not necessarily. I know a lot of people are here to support the budget. Like I said, I appreciate that. Just moving forward, I'll take, Madam Chair, your recommendation on how you want to communicate with us. I'm happy to, open up a Google Doc, or if you want all questions to go through you to us. So we're best prepared to respond to the Board of Finance in our upcoming budget workshops in the days and weeks ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The only other thing on an operational level, Ron and I sat in on a DRIP grant webinar a couple weeks ago. I know we had money that we were using rollover from last year to work on a boiler and burner upgrade at Jockey Hollow. Looks like we're going to get about $150,000 from that DRIP grant. So we could pick that off of the capital projects. So, like I said, anything you all need from us on our end, very engaged. This is a great reception. It's greatly appreciated. I understand and I said it when I gave my presentation. That I know, back in December, I understand the pressures that we're under. I have, a widowed mother who lives next door to me. I understand the pressures that all this plays on a community. So, looking forward to working with this group.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next item is review of our financial reports. We have our year-to-date general fund budget report. Ron, I didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to point out. I know with snow, we're trending high.
First Selectman mentioned that earlier. So
still that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
As was mentioned, we're still waiting on some, there's a lag with some of the billing. A lot of the payroll's gone through. We are over budget right now. I don't think it's anything we'll be able to manage at through year end though.
Okay. Any questions from the board on the first item?
No.
Okay. Fund activity statement for the Monroe Public Schools. The only question I had was, are you okay? Okay. I think the last meeting we were talking about payments from the state. Those came through?
So the
special ed payment?
Yes, the district received its first excess cost payment.
Okay.
Just over $1 million. Okay. We're anticipating another 300 before the end of the fiscal year.
That leaves us roughly where
So
in special ed?
Assuming we get the additional 300, we're at break even right now for special ed. So right now we're tracking 300 over, but that's not with the 300 we're anticipating getting.
Okay.
And that's, with current encumbrances in place.
In current population.
Steve, did you have a question?
No, it was going to be the special ed.
Okay. Sam, any questions from you on those two? I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, thank you.
Okay. Monthly report of the treasurer.
February interest income was $196,000. Our February year-to-date, we're sitting at $1,696,000 in terms of interest income. That keeps us on target for our full-year budget number of $2.3 million. In March, we have $5.8 million of Treasury bills maturing. They're being rolled over into 12-month T-bills at roughly a 3.6% interest rate. My recommendation to the first selectman for the fiscal year 26-27 budget was $1.7 million. That was based on the model that we've used in previous years. I will be providing the Board of Finance an updated model for the budget workshop. Interest rates are expected to continue to decline, albeit at a slower rate over the next 16 months. Still a lot of uncertainty in terms of the velocity and depth of the interest rate cuts. However, this week's Federal Open Market Committee meeting left interest rates unchanged. And one thing that I follow is the dot plot, which is all the Board of Governors and what they're doing. It indicates that we may have at least one interest rate cut less than what we were anticipating when the model was first done. The uncertainty there is we do have a new chairman coming in May, so that could disrupt things a little bit. But I anticipate that the updated model that I'll provide to the Board of Finance for the budget workshop will allow us to update and increase slightly the interest income. But until we run all the numbers and the board has a chance to discuss it, we don't know what that final number will be. That's it.
Great, thanks.
What's the stiff rate?
3.71.
Other questions?
No.
Okay, Deb, you're up. Monthly report of the tax collector.
We are trending very well. I ran a report today, and to make budget, all we have to collect till the end of the year is $180,000, which is very doable. We'll probably exceed that number. So we'll have a surplus again this year. So I hit the targeted rate that you had,
Okay.
and we'll discuss the rates and the numbers for the upcoming budget, how we proceed. And I will add some stuff when we have our budget meeting of what plan I have for the future.
Okay, great. Any questions for Deb? All right, hearing none. Okay, let's do our new business, set the public hearing and budget workshop dates. And I do have Nick and Catherine's availability. So I'd like to start with our public hearing. I would like to ask the board members if they would be open to a Saturday for the public hearing. And if so, I would be looking at Saturday, March 28th.
Generally haven't done that, but yeah, I guess we can do that.
So I'm
Reason for it?
putting it out there, and we don't have to. You're right. We have done evenings, but we have heard that evenings can sometimes be busy with working families and school schedules, activities, et cetera. So I'm just putting it out there as, an option.
It's fine with me.
That works for me as well.
Yeah, I'll make it work.
It would be probably a 9 a.m. start.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, do in the
Well-
morning.
What about sports? I know that if this is a public hearing and we want the public to be participating, a lot of parents do have sports activities early in the morning on Saturdays. Not that Saturday afternoons are great either, but I just want to make sure that we maximize,
everyone's ability to share their opinion and voice, what their concerns are about this.
Well, you want to propose a weeknight?
Well, I mean.
I would like to just do one public hearing because we have workshops to still plan out through the week.
Absolutely,
So-
I
absolutely.
mean, we need a week notice, so, I mean, the 26th Thursday night, the 26th would be what I would have normally thought we would do.
Okay, so Nick and Catherine are not available that day.
Okay.
And we don't do Fridays in general, right?
And we generally, we don't do Fridays.
Say, I don't know how many, excuse me, how many sports will be going a week from this weekend. It's still early, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, town.
I think that,
you will be at a sport. Oh.
I think like spring soccer starts and baseball starting up.
Oh, okay.
The other date I would say would be on Tuesday, the 31st.
Okay, so another date on the table is what?
The 31st.
Okay, I have Nick available, I'm available, you're available. Sam, are you available on Tuesday, the 31st?
I am.
Yes, I am too.
And D is too? All right, let's go with March 31st.
At 6 p.m.
M.
Normal. Now, are you intending to do the public hearing first and then have a workshop following?
I was
Or
not
just-
intending that, but we could see how it goes for the next board
Okay.
workshops.
Okay, because as long as we're here, we could do the
For
public
sure.
hearing first and then have a workshop, and that would be the only two pieces of business.
Okay.
That's my recommendation.
Okay, so if the public hearing is March 31st, for the workshops, let's confirm what departments we would like to bring in.
Have an idea of when you want to do the Board of Ed?
Board of Ed, I'd like to do as early as possible because they have spring break,
Which is when?
the 13th to the 17th.
So, I mean, we often do 2 meetings in that first week. So, I mean, I would not be opposed to doing Thursday, April the 2nd. And if you wanted to do that for the Board of Ed, or if you wanted to do that for some of the town departments. The one thing I'm thinking about the Board of Ed is doing them sooner rather than later. Notwithstanding everything we just heard, I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those years where we're going to have questions and want to bring them
That's why I
back
want
a
to bring
second
them
time
in.
around.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the other way to do it maybe would be do the public hearing on the 31st and have the Board of Ed follow that. And then we would just have a regular workshop with whomever on the 2nd. Otherwise, we can do a general workshop on the 31st and start with town departments. And again, my point would be the 2nd would be the next workshop of
Correct.
whatever.
Okay, so Sam, are you available Thursday, the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, D?
Yes.
And Steve, you're available?
Yes.
Okay. So April 2nd, Board of Ed. Okay, so let's backtrack for the departments. You know, police, fire,
Okay.
public works.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about which order.
I'm not going in order, I just want to know what departments because we could batch them together.
Okay. We're at the 19th. Can we take
Planning
that
and
under
zoning.
advisement and send you which departments and you compile them? I haven't, to be honest, I haven't built a list of which ones I want to
Which
For the
one?
DPW, absolutely.
Right.
Police, fire, fire EMS.
Well, planning and zoning, do you want Parks and Rec?
Yes. There was some discussion about library. And I think we need to have the senior center and social services.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's too much to do in one night.
Well, we could break them up for sure.
We
And
need
it
to
depends
have-
on availability.
We need to have our budget to the first selectman.
April
on
20th.
April 20th. So we're in the second. So that still gives us 2 weeks. It gives us our meeting on the 16th.
So I think we need to do Monday, the 6th. And Thursday, the 9th.
Yeah, I would not want to do Monday, the 6th. It's both a town council meeting and a Board of Ed meeting on April the 6th.
Okay.
So Tuesday, the 7th,
Catherine and Nick aren't
would
available.
probably be another, or the 9th, the 7th or the 9th makes sense to me.
Okay, we could do the 9th.
That works.
Sam, you're good.
Yeah.
D,
Yep.
Steve, you're good on the
Yeah.
9th.
I am good. And then we have the 16th, which is our regular meeting. The question is, do we need one more?
We
Because
do.
we're gonna have to do capital, we're gonna have to do revenue.
Revenue, yep.
We would normally split those. Ron, capital and revenue in more than one meeting? Or something else with one of those? Or we do them both at the same time?
I think we could
Okay.
probably do it in one meeting.
On the 13th, can you do Monday the 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
Sam, can you do the 13th?
Yes, I was just looking at the calendar. It is the beginning of a spring break.
Oh, that's the beginning of spring break, but
But
are you
I'm
good or are
here.
you
I'm
here?
here, yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that as a reminder in case anyone has anything going on.
The 13th is going to be revenue and capital.
Yes, it would have,
Heidi and I are at a conference in,
We can't do it without you.
until 5 o'clock. It just might be tough to get back here for 6,
Can we do 7?
probably do 7.
Or
we
you guys
also have,
willing to
we
do
also would have, for me, we'd have Tuesday the
Traffic on
14th.
95, it's right.
that? Yeah.
Tuesday the 14th is also possibility for me.
Sam, are you available on Tuesday, the 14th?
The whole week of spring break, I will be available.
Okay,
And I will too.
you're there. Okay, so Sam, are you available Tuesday?
I am on the 14th,
Is
yes.
Tuesday good for you guys? So
That's the-
scratch the 13th.
Yeah.
That's the
That gives
14th.
us the 31st, the 2nd, the 9th, the 14th, and the 16th would be our final,
Unless we call another one
unless we need another one, in
on
which case you have,
Friday.
in which case you have Friday the 17th. So we had to have it on the 20th?
Mhm.
No. What's that? That actually means we could finish it on the 20th if we had to.
Right.
So that,
Are we
That gives
doing a meeting, doing a workshop after the public hearing on the 31st? Did we
Yes.
decide on that?
Yeah, we can.
yes, that was my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, based on the schedule, I think we kind of have to, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're together rather than force ourselves into another meeting. So we do the 31st, we do the 2nd, we can always add, we're gonna have the 9th, we're gonna have the 14th. We'll have our meeting on the 16th, and worst case is we would have a final meeting on the 20th. if we absolutely needed it. And that basically, in my view, would be nothing more than,
Okay, let's
Buttoning
check
down the numbers.
availability for the 20th. Sam, are you free on the 20th?
Yes.
Dee, are you? Yeah.
yes,
And you are too? All right,
Yes.
so we'll have. Okay. So the 16th, the 20th, the 14th, the 9th,
and the 31st of March and the
the
2nd.
2nd,
Second and the
and the
31st.
31st.
Everything's at 6.
Yeah.
It seems to have a quorum at every meeting.
Yeah.
Is it just a general workshop on the 31st?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. And I think we'll have to decide.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, we
do
can,
Board of Ed that night.
yeah, do Board of Ed.
Are you free the 31st?
With your folks? Okay.
As far as locations, do you want me to follow up with you? Okay. I'll follow up tomorrow.
We know on the 31st, Mr. Purcell, whether this room's available?
Not offhand, no, I'd have to check the schedule. I can get back to you tomorrow on that.
Okay, so
For
just,
the public hearing?
yeah, let's stick with these dates for now. And then if I have to make any adjustments, I'll do it. I'll text everybody.
That's fine.
Okay. As well as with the department heads, if there's any dates that we need to move things around or anything, let me know. Did you have a comment?
No. Yeah, because I think we should have this room for the public hearing.
I'm looking at the schedule online and there's no meeting scheduled for the 31st. So
Okay,
Oh, good. Thank you, Sam.
thanks, Sam.
you're welcome. If you want me to check the other dates real quick, I can do that.
We normally don't need a room like this for our workshops. There's no public participation, there's no public testimony. And the annex is probably available if we needed, if we
Probably
wanted.
is, but it's still better to call the office in the morning, just in
Yeah.
case it was an input, you know.
I'll take care of that.
Things change day by day, so yeah, just make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking just generally, absolutely. So,
Okay, everyone good with those dates?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Easy.
And Frank, you're good with the 14th? I'm sorry.
I am.
Yeah, we definitely need.
I know.
Right now, the 14th would be revenue and capital. Is that what you-
Yeah, yes.
All right, great. Okay, so moving on to our next item is a transfer request, $2,000 of excess funds from the Monroe Bicentennial Program to the Monroe, Connecticut 250 program.
Madam Chair, I have a motion. Resolved that the following budget transfer be approved pursuant to Chapter 8, Section 7G of the Town Charter for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, $2,000 from Monroe Bicentennial Program and $2,000 to Monroe CT 250 Program. This transfer having been approved by the Monroe Bicentennial Program Committee.
Have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dee. Any discussion?
No, he's
I mean, it's a simple equation. So there was donations made to the bicentennial and there was some remainder funds and that could be used for the CT 250 celebration that Nicole Signoli is putting together. So it was just a good use of the funds moving forward. So thank you for doing that. That's going to help that event a lot. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Yep. So Sam,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Dee.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, next up is our public participation. And so before we get started, I just want to set the stage so that everyone knows what to expect tonight. So again, this is a regular meeting and the public hearing on the 2026-27 budget is tentatively scheduled for March 31st. So what that means is that you're welcome to speak this evening. Your comments don't need to be limited to the budget. If you've signed in when you arrived, I'll call speakers in this order so that everyone gets an opportunity and we can keep things very organized. So for those joining us online, those callers we'll use the raise your hand feature and then we'll bring you in as we move along. When you are recognized, please state your full name and address for the record. Comments should be directed to the board as a whole, and we ask that your remarks stay within 3 minutes of time so everyone has the opportunity. We won't be answering any questions during the meeting, and the goal is to make sure that everyone who wants to be heard can be heard, and that we just maintain a respectful process. So with that, I'm going to open public participation. And the first speaker tonight will be Kelly Mindendorf. If I said that right?
Middendorf.
Middendorf. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Middendorf. I live at 108 Ripton Ridge. I'm a Monroe parent. I am also a taxpayer since 2013. But tonight I'm here as something much more important. I'm here as Logan's mom. Like every parent in this room, I would do absolutely anything to protect my child, including standing here tonight. First, I'd like to thank town officials for listening to our concerns and reducing the net reduction to a much more sustainable amount, in my opinion, and making the education budget a little bit more sustainable. This adjustment acknowledges that what we are talking about tonight is not abstract. It's not a spreadsheet. It's not a line item. It's time. Time in classroom, time with teachers who know our children, time with support staff who step in when a child is struggling. Once that time is gone, you can't get it back. You can't re-add a lost school year. You can't restore the moment a child needed help and it wasn't there. That time belongs to our children, and I'm asking that we continue to prioritize that. Monroe is a voting scatterplot. Some of us vote red, some of us vote blue. Some of us change our minds every single election. But tonight, none of that matters, because protecting our children should never fall along party line. Tonight is about something much more basic, whether the adults in this room choose to protect the next generation of Monroe. I'm going to show you someone. This is Logan. Logan's needed some extra support at times, and the team at Monroe Elementary has been exceptional. Teachers, support staff, people who see him, understand him, and treat him like he's not a problem to manage. They treat him like a child worth investing in. That support has changed his trajectory. I wonder how many of you have a story like that? And how many children in this room have been lifted up by someone in the schools? And right now, I'd like to ask the families here to do something with me. If you have a photo of your child, or you want to pull it up on your phone, I feel like it might be a good visual to see exactly how many children we're talking about tonight. I know we all took a moment to look around this room, and I think we've all pretty cute kids, so thank you, everyone. These children are the futures. These children are the futures that are being decided within this budget. To the members of the Board of Finance and the Town Council, tonight, you'll go home, you'll close your eyes, and hope that when you do, you think about these faces. I hope that you remember them, because the children are watching what the adults in their community choose to do. They're watching whether we protect them or whether we continue to prioritize their needs.
That was a little loud. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So thank you so much for the time and the opportunity to speak. And once we have that time, our children never get that time. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Next up is Kevin.
Kevin Middendorf. Kelly's my better half. I also live at 108 Ripton Ridge. Mr. Rooney, your words have obviously changed things a bit, but but I'm missing March Madness for this, so I'm going to say what I wrote anyway. It's clear there are a lot of strong feelings in this room tonight, and that's amazing because it means people care a lot about the future of our town. There are parents here who care deeply about their children. There are taxpayers who are worried about rising costs. And there are people on both sides of this issue who truly believe they're standing up for what's best for Monroe. That passion is a good thing. But tonight, I'd like to step back from the emotion for a moment and talk about something simpler, the process. I know the Board of Finance has a tough job. You're trying to balance rising costs, taxpayer concerns, and the needs of the town. I don't envy the position you're in. But the good news is you don't have to settle this debate before it reaches the voters. All you have to do is let the people of Monroe decide. Restore the superintendent's original request and let the town vote on it. You still have the opportunity to do that. Maybe it passes, maybe it doesn't. That's exactly how the process is supposed to work. If the voters decide it's too much, then the budget can come back lower. But at least the decision belongs to the people who live here, not to a red pen before we ever reach the ballot. Right now, a lot of residents feel like the most important question is being answered before they ever have a chance to speak. And that's the part that doesn't sit right. You were elected by the people of Monroe to represent this community. We're not asking you to take sides tonight. We're simply asking you to trust those same people to weigh in. Trust the parents who send their children to these schools every day. Trust the taxpayers who make this town possible. And trust the community that chose to live here in the first place. Many of us moved here because of the schools. They're not just another line item in the budget. They're the foundation of this town. So let the town vote, let the people speak, and trust the people who elected you to decide what kind of future they want for their town and their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Schrader, if I said okay. Having you a little more time there.
He talks fast with me.
Okay, so she had to leave. Okay, is there a Sonia Trasani? Did I say that right? Sona, okay, sorry.
Sona Chisani, 23 Trailside Drive. So good evening, everyone. The gap between what our schools need and what is being proposed by the first selectman is not just a number. Clearly, you've seen all the images here. I want to remind everyone that it actually represents what we as a town value. The current situation is incredibly complex with multiple factors to consider at the local and the state levels. Let me be clear, there is no easy way to address this issue, but it's exactly those hard situations that reveal the nature and character of the people and groups who have to come face to face with those challenges. I attended last week's town council meeting, and what I saw from our current administration was less than inspiring. I saw a fear of losing power, a resistance to engage across party lines, and hiding behind partisan excuses. But this does not have to be the end of the story. You all can rise above this challenge and value the long-term health of our community. You can choose to consider all the factors. You can consider that the top reason why people buy homes in our town is due to our school rankings. You can consider that not reinstating the full amount that's requested by the Board of Ed will weaken our schools and impair our competitive edge against nearby towns. You can consider that by not supporting our schools, you are damaging our long-term property value. You can consider the message that you're sending to our children, which is that they are not valued. Finally, you can consider that the town has raised the income limit for tax relief and let go of the rhetoric that supporting our schools results in deprioritizing our seniors. As a mother of 3 school-aged children and a daughter to elderly seniors who live in this town, as well as a taxpayer, the current situation hits really close to home for multiple reasons. You have the ability to change the current discourse and show the true character of your leadership. Put aside partisanship, support our schools because our schools are the lifeblood of this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Yuskus. Sorry about that. Just state your name and address.
Chris Yuskus, 71 Senior Hill Lane.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Chris Yuskus, and I'm currently a senior at Massac High School. This is my 4th year serving as senior class president and my 2nd year as the student representative for the Board of Education. I'm here today to speak on behalf of Massac's diverse student body, and more broadly, the entire Monroe Public Schools community, about how they will be drastically impacted by the reduction of the education budget. In our town, education goes beyond mere teaching. It serves as a student's easel, a place to begin, not a finish line to their future success. Families of Monroe value the district's excellence. They take pride in sending their children to schools that genuinely care while providing the strongest possible foundation for the future. In my own family, I'm the 4th of 6 children to have the privilege of attending Monroe schools. That is not something we take for granted. Our town is defined by the quality of its education, yet cutting this budget undermines that very identity. What does this mean in real terms? It means larger class sizes, fewer clubs, fewer electives, fewer opportunities for students to explore their passions and prepare for their futures. During my 4 years at Massac, I have seen quarterly ranked robotics teams, numerous state championships, and the creation of countless new clubs. These opportunities are not accidents. They are the direct result of strong programs, dedicated teachers, and the resources this community has invested in its students. When you choose to cut funding, you are choosing to give future students fewer tools and fewer opportunities. More importantly, you are sending a message that their potential is not worth protecting. Parents, like my own mother nearly 20 years ago, chose Monroe because of its schools. That decision is still being made today. But the strength of that choice depends on the commitment we continue to show. The care, support, and success of our students are on the line. The reputation of our town is on the line. On behalf of the Monroe student body, I urge you, prove to students that they matter, continue to value education, continue to invest in the future of Monroe. Thank you.
Sarah Bento. Just your name and address.
Sarah Bento, 50 Forest Road.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sarah Bento, and I'm currently a junior at Massac High School. This is my 2nd year serving as treasurer for the class of 2027, and my 1st year student representative for the Board of Education. I'm also here today to speak on behalf of Massac's student body and all of the students attending Monroe's public schools. The reduction of the budget will affect children grades pre-K to 12. Monroe is known for its public education system across Fairfield County. I should know, as it's the sole reason I moved here 4 years ago. I moved to Monroe from Bridgeport seeking a better education and a safer environment. I chose Monroe because I chose Massac because at the time it felt like the place that had the most potential for me as a student to thrive. My family is not the only one who has done this so that their children can go and receive the education they deserve. In fact, Massac has a large number of ESL families who greatly benefit from all of the help Massac staff can give them. Cuts to certified and non-certified staff will ultimately affect all students, but especially those who require more attention in their studies. Cutting the budget greatly affects our opportunity to thrive and find our passions. By increasing class sizes, cutting electives, and eliminating clubs, it feels as if our need for knowledge and our want to learn is being actively hindered. Through clubs, I have made some of my best friends and talked to people I never thought I would have before. Being on the girls' soccer freshman team helped me realize that I was where I wanted to be. These activities make Massac what it is. This is what makes us special. This is what put us at the top of test scores. It's no coincidence that taking away what makes Massac has led to lowered scoring. Massac prosperity is what makes Monroe property so valuable. Saving dollars now will lead to thousands lost in equity down the road. But the schools aren't just investments for better properties, they're investments for the students we produce. Massac students are advancing to higher institutions, IVs, T20s, and the best trade schools. Making all of these changes to the Massac environment will diminish the future of students to come. Taking away these countless opportunities that are seen as extra will take away student success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Ariema? Right.
Hey, Jeff Oriama, 23 Hillside Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye. I have 3 kids who are school age. One of them will be in kindergarten next year, so I'll say preschool age. You'll hear a lot about families tonight, so I won't talk about them necessarily per se. I'd like to talk about another child that I know. I have a picture here. His name's George. Don't let the powdered wig fool you. He's really quite young. George represents our shared prosperity, our shared success as a town. And we invest in George because George is in the schools. It's that simple. George is in the schools. And what I see playing out this budget cycle is kind of an echo of what I've seen the past few years here, which is budget happens, big cut, big number happens, and then we walk it back to like a more reasonable sounding number. But as a taxpayer who has George and 3 kids in the school system, as a taxpayer, and that's true of any resident of Monroe, we all have George in the schools, whether we have kids or not. I'd like the chance to vote on a full budget. I'd also like to see more than that. This budget still represents, I think, a just get through it mentality. We're going to get through it. And I know what that feels like because I'm on a foundation board myself. I'm a treasurer. I know the hard work that goes into that, and that's not minimizing anything that's going on. But as a town, we need to be thinking about our growing population, our school facilities that's just frankly inadequate. So yeah, this cycle we'll get through it, but I'd like a chance to vote on a full budget, and I'd like to see us really plan for the future, for the growth of our town. We need to invest in George. We can't just pretend that we can just get through year after year with not quite enough to grow. I want to see George grow, and I think a lot of the taxpayers in Monroe want the same thing. So let's vote on it, please. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have Alan Baglavello.
Michael Bello, 25 School Street. I'm not going to say too much. I'm just hoping that like moving forward, we could have like more transparent conversations. I think we could all agree that, you know, obviously the state could do more. They shortchange us every year. But that's nothing new. It constantly happens, and it's not unique to Monroe. It's all over Connecticut. And it's not the sole reason our school system is always under strain. You know, we need to plan. The failure to plan for them is local. It's not something suddenly imposed by Hartford. It's been a long-standing problem that towns in Connecticut have been operating under. And it's not just Hartford that's a problem, it's also the federal government. They originally promised 40% to the states for special education, and they're delivering, I think it's about 5%. So it's something that's happening everywhere. And like I said, it's nothing new. I just want to talk a little bit about, there's like a lot of misperception out there that public education only supports parents, which that was never the reason it was designed. Public education is meant to benefit everyone in town. Like some people pointed out, like if you have a good school system, you're going to have a robust housing market. It's going to attract young couples in the town. Houses are going to be worth more. It just creates, you know, much better climate in the community. But if you don't fund in your schools, let them fall apart, people are just going to look like they're in town for trouble. You know, that's not help anyone out. A little bit about the numbers. We currently have 709 students in our school system that are getting special ed services. That's about 1 in 5. And when we take things away, those are the kids that get hit the hardest. Those are the kids that get, often need like one-on-one instruction, small group instruction, counseling, speech and language services, that sort of thing. And if you're increasing class size, those are the kids that are going to get hit the most because they need smaller class sizes so they can get like one-on-one help from the teacher, get that small group instruction. And when you start to cut staff, that makes it a lot more difficult. So those cuts, are going to hit the kids. Those kids already have to work twice as hard as anyone else. And they're the ones that tend to get hit the hardest with this, anytime we cut. Like I said, just moving forward, I just hope we could have more transparent, solution-oriented conversations rather than dividing residents. Children in Monroe didn't create the budget problem, and it should be us to solve it. If Monroe's truly a community that values family and education, I think our budget should reflect that.
Thank you. Lauren?
Evening, Catherine Tolan, 74 Old Castle Drive. We are here tonight with the hopes that you, the Board of Finance, will do the right thing by reinstating the full budget cut by the first selectman for public vote. Let the people decide if they want the schools and the students of Monroe to crawl or run. In your inbox earlier today, you all received a petition to reinstate the funds, which has been circulating for weeks. To date, it has over 900 signatures. I'll let that number speak for itself. In addition, there is a student-driven petition that currently holds numerous signatures, illustrating how they are directly affected and involved in advocating for their education. Here are the letters to the editor, printed in the Monroe Sun, for any members or anybody who has missed any of them. The $250,000 that was recently added to the BOE budget from an adjusted insurance rate of a predicted 15% down to an actual 12.5% is only covering what the 6 members of the majority party of the BOE took away in chambers before discussing it with the BOE as a united front whose sole job is to advocate for the students collectively. The $250,000 is simply what was removed before going to vote by the entire BOE. This seems to be a running theme, doesn't it? Cutting budgets privately across the board before public participation. Any other spin to the tune of $250,000 is false and misleading. In regards to the recent Sun article where the first selectman alludes to a $96,000 bill that Monroe taxpayers will have to absorb due to the sale of Aquarion to the tax-exempt Regional Water Authority, this is not the youth of Monroe's problem. They are not the ones to punish for old pipes and infrastructure, which have been in place long before they were born. If the local government was actually interested in saving money and keeping taxes down evenly, then Jason Mauer's proposal to 2 specific line items at the March 9th municipal budget hearing would not have been steamrolled by the majority on town council. Here, a logical solution was given to save thousands of dollars over the next few years, but instead of discussing or even considering the idea, it was vetoed because of loyalty to the party versus the greater good of the town. With this in mind, there is no way that the children of Monroe will be held responsible for the illogical and short-sighted decisions of our local government officials. It isn't right and it isn't fair. From its inception, Monroe Parents for Education has and always will be bipartisan in nature regarding our values and beliefs. When these very same concerns arose last year before our group began, some voices obviously faded after budget season and straight through November. We are here tonight promising you that we will not fade. We are here now and will remain to keep our fingers on the pulse of information being shared both publicly and privately. We are the voices, we are the votes, and we fully intend to exercise both from this day through all election days to come. Thanks.
Mr. Rodney Zimmers.
My name is Rodney Zimmers. I live at 24 Cobbler's Hill Court. And I live, I'm trying to think the best way to put it. I moved here in 2022 from Arizona. And the reason we moved to Connecticut was because the schools in Arizona are bad. There's no other way to put it. They rank probably, depending on the year, 48 to 50. And my kids were at the school age. And it was first grade. My eldest was in first grade at the time. I went back to school and there were 4 families there. And so my wife and I decided to uproot our family and move across the country. And we did it with intention. We Googled, because that's the easiest way to do it, what states have the 5 best schools? Connecticut turned out to be in the top 3, regardless of which search engine or place I looked. Then I looked up top 25 public school systems in the state of Connecticut. And Monroe was one of them. So my wife and I went and looked at houses in all 25 school districts that ranked there. Because we were moving our family across the country. It's, you know, I have 2 small kids and my grandparents, my mom, dad, my wife's family, all lives in Arizona. And so when we drove around, I asked kids, like those awesome kids who came here to speak, do you like it here? What do you think of the schools? And it turns out the kids in Monroe absolutely loved it, so we bought a house. And that's how we made our decision, because the kids loved it here and said they got a great education and it was a great place. And since we've moved here the last 4 years, we fell in love with the town because of the people here. I have awesome friends. It's a great community. We're involved in the community. And I want that for my family. And I think that education is paramount to the health of a township. And so that's why my family is very much in support of the education and getting the budget they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Jordan.
Jordan, 36 Oakwood Drive. So, board members, any cut to Board of Education proposed budget or the superintendent's budget actually, is going to have a devastating impact on Monroe schools and its students. We're looking at proposed cuts that are going to cut faculty and staff. It's going to result in larger class sizes, elimination of important programs and stipends. I sent a larger letter. I don't know if you guys read all the letters that came through.
I've read every single one.
Well, thank you.
Everyone.
I'm not going to go through everything that I went through in my letter here. I just really wanted to stress that, like a lot of other people have said here, we moved to Monroe not knowing anything about the town, not knowing much at all about Connecticut. But my husband and I are both in education, and the Monroe schools had a great reputation. So this is the town we chose. We have fallen in love with this town in the 8 years we've lived here. I have a 2nd grader with significant ADHD who loves going to school every day. And it's a miracle, and I don't know how they do it. But the schools are really special. The town is wonderful. I left other school systems that I've worked in before, and I opened my own business, and I wanted to open it in town when I would have been a lot more profitable going down to Westport. This is where I chose to open it. My husband, the first chance he got to work in district as an elementary school teacher, so he jumped at it after swearing to me he would never work in the town we live in. After watching our kids in the school and learning about the school district, this is where he is and this is where he wants to stay. Costs rise and expenses rise, we're all dealing with it. And it's hard. And I'm not a numbers person, and I'm not sure how you guys all do it. Thank you for doing it. But we need to make our kids a priority. I work in schools. Kids need to feel safe. They need the extracurriculars to make them show up. Without sports, I worked in special ed, and without sports, many of my kids wouldn't come to school. And then who knows what they're out doing. These programs are important. The teachers are important. The people are important. My 4-year-old walks in every time he gets a chance and says, I'm coming here next year, because he knows how much his brother loves Monroe. And it's the people that make it special. We need to protect our teachers. We need to protect our support staff. We need to fully fund the education budget, hold on to these people who make our town special, who help our kids grow, and really just, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, the people are what make the school special. We all know we have buildings falling down. All the schools in the area is due to some extent. We have to address that problem at some point. This is not the year to address that. We need to hold on to the people we have, because that is what makes Monroe School special.
Great, thank you. The next person is, I think it's Eleni Turner.
I can say my name. No, it's okay. It's hard to pronounce. Eleni Turner, 3 Sterling Place.
Okay.
My name's Eleni Turner, and I'm a lifelong Monroe resident. I attended Stepney, Chalk Hill, Jockey Hollow, and Massac. So when we're talking about things hitting home, it does very much hit home for me, because this is home. I'm now raising my family here. I have 2 kids at Stepney and a toddler. And I was so influenced by my excellent education that I chose to pursue a career in public schools, even though my license as a speech pathologist allows me to work in a variety of settings. Speaking from a decade of experience, no matter how different content and overall teaching methods are across grade levels and disciplines, all educators have one really important pillar that we lean on. And for the educators in the room, data-driven decision making. So, we can't make instructional decisions without the support of high quality data that validates those choices. If the BOE budget is not restored, our kids are looking at impactful cuts that will have long-term implications. And that's also compounded by COVID. Our COVID babies are now our COVID kindergartners. So when thinking about data-driven decision-making, I wanted to see if our town numbers support the proposals made by the first selectman. And I'd imagine that finance people are numbers people, so I tried to talk numbers from the public budget documents. So for the 25-26 year, our 5 in-district buildings had 3,305 students. For 26-27, it's estimated to be 3,226. So that's a decrease of 79 students. And let's also consider that a lot of people move over the summer and families are flocking here. So if anything, enrollment is more likely to increase if it moves at all. Hypothetically, if there are approximately 20 students per class, logic would say that, considering that 79 student decrease, maybe it's 4 certified teachers that risk being laid off. The cuts made now force 6 to 8 certified teachers to be laid off. So that math's not mathing for me. And I have to ask, where's the data? We've all heard where's the data. The current cut also has 5 to 7 uncertified staff members. So that's primarily paraeducators and behavior technicians. Most, if not all of these uncertified staff members work with students who require para support via their IEP. An IEP is a legal document. Not only could it be a safety risk to the student themselves, their classmates, and in some situations, even staff members, for a student to go without their para support, it puts the district out of compliance with the IEP, which opens the district up to due process proceedings and out-of-district placements, both of which are taxpayer funded. Tuition alone at a school like CES, which is literally just right down the road in Trumbull, is in the neighborhood of $50,000 per year. And that's without considering the potential independent evaluations, the consulting fees, the legal fees to get to an outplacement decision, as well as the transportation costs that the district is liable to physically get the child to their program. Per our para contract, our highest paid paras make just over $41,000 annually, and that's a gross overestimation. So when you look at a para costing 41 at the top of the pay scale, but 1 year of an out-of-district placement for 50, again, math's not mathing. Where's the data? We should invest in staff members now and not risk spending significantly more money down the road. And I could make the same argument about school infrastructure as well, but I'm not going to start there. One talking point is that it's on the superintendent and the BOE to create the BOE budget. And we know that that's not the long and the short of the entire process. So, you know, difficult decisions have to be made with these cuts. 4.33% of Superintendent Cobb's initial proposed increase is the actual non-negotiables. It's fulfillment of contractual obligations, many of which don't expire until 2029 because they just had a renegotiation year with the union, as well as health insurance premiums, which is out of everybody's control. The 2.68 increase initially proposed barely covers half of what it costs to just maintain the status quo and not even add anything to our system. So knowing that, you know, superintendent and BOE create the budget, it's kind of, you know, I think it's a cop-out to say that I don't pick what gets cut, that's on the superintendent. We can't hold our kids to high standards without giving them access to high quality instruction. We wouldn't tell someone with no math or physics knowledge and no toolbox to build a treehouse. Educators are constantly told to get creative. You have some sort of problem, you're lacking something, let's get creative. How can we make this work? Frankly, we're very tired. We've gotten very creative. And, you know, last year, Mr. Rooney and I actually sat down together because I'd sent a series of emails. And when we sat down, I really explained all of the realities of our education system, federally, state, local, special ed. We talked for, I think, about an hour and a half. And I really tried to lead you to understand why this really is so important and why this is long-term investment. And at one point during that interaction, you actually did tell me, you're obviously very intelligent. And I said, or I didn't say, but I want to tell you here and now that I know that I am intelligent. I definitely don't need you to tell me that I'm intelligent. And I have education in
Tiffany?
Meeting or at this point, it's been a long day. Tiffany Holcomb, 334 Moose Hill Road. A little off the cuff of my notes. So first, good evening, members of the finance. I do want to start off by saying thank you to the first selectman for clearly taking some time to listen to your constituents. I'm sure you're seeing the chatter online and all the things, and making your statement to recommend some of the funding back. I want to echo a statement that was made earlier that this does seem to be a little bit of a tug of war that has been going on the last couple of years. Large cut made, parents can fight back, let's put some back. Is this just a strategy for, I don't really know. But it's feeling like the cuts are, and the schools are being politicized. It's not feeling like we are making an intentional investment in the town's future by looking at our crown jewel, the schools. I grew up in Stratford along with my husband. We moved here after saving, scrimping for years. We were married for a decade before we were able to purchase a home here. This was our goal. We intentionally saved because we wanted to move to Monroe. A year later, a position opened up in town, and I was so thankful to be able to get hired and become a member of the Monroe Public Schools as an educator myself. I walk into Fawn Hollow every morning, and now I'm seeing year after year, more and more people, more and more students who are the children of those students I graduated with. The town of Stratford is migrating to Monroe and has done so, and there's a reason for that. And every single person I ask is, it's the schools.
It's the schools. We came here for this reason. I'm on the soccer field. Oh my gosh, you're here too? We are all moving to Monroe. My daughter's first grade class. There are 3 students that graduated on the same stage as me with a graduating class of almost 400. It's unbelievable to me how many of us have come here for the schools. You are finance people. You are numbers people. So I did come here with some numbers. While I appreciate the recommendation to put some of the funding back, I am advocating for a return of the full 1.6 million, and also really thinking mindfully about supporting the superintendent and his team as they look forward on how to support our schools. The original budget really pushed for support in math because the data speaks to a need in supporting our students in their math. At this time, we already have the highest student-teacher ratio in our peer group. Even before these proposed cuts, Monroe's students-teacher ratio sits at over 11-1, while the average for districts within our DERG is closer to 9.7-1. Eliminating up to 11 more educators will only widen the gap and make it harder for teachers to provide the individual instruction that every student deserves, but truly needs. Second, this ratio is directly impacting student achievement. It's just a fact of the matter. When we look at the performance indexes from 2022 to 2025, the data paints a very clear picture. While almost every other district in our peer group has seen positive growth in both math and ELA, Monroe is unfortunately sliding backwards. We are the outlier in the wrong direction, as we are the only district in DERG B that over the last 3 years have shown negative growth in both core subjects on that 3-year average. That is directly tied to the fact that if you look at those student-teacher ratios, we are far and away the highest. Third, we are already underfunding our students compared to our neighbors. Monroe's per pupil expenditure is hovering around 20,000. The average for our peer group is over 22,000. We are already trying to do more with less, and the state data clearly shows that it is catching up to us. You cannot cut your way to academic growth. Our students rely on paraprofessionals for vital targeted support, and our teachers rely on manageable, including myself, manageable class sizes to effectively do our jobs every day. I'm asking that you look at all of the data, the money to protect us as taxpayers, but also these numbers that are available, and I'm happy to provide them to you. I can get them for you easily. I'm sure superintendent can as well. But I ask that you look at the data and recognize the trajectory we are on. Please choose to invest in our children's foundational skills. Please restore the 1.6 million to the Board of Ed budget. I so appreciate your time and your service to our town. Hearing you list off all of those meetings gave me severe anxiety. So I know what it feels like to have to do a lot, and in fact, we do this for free. Thank you. But please, please, please consider not just 26, 27, but consider the next decade, the next generation. How can we set every single student and every single taxpayer up in this town for success? Thank you.
Richard?
John Richard, 3 Founders Way. First, thank you for all that you do for our town and for your time tonight. While we appreciate the restoration of a portion of the proposed Board of Ed budget, any reduction in the already lean school budget will cost Monroe homeowners far more than it saves. As parents and homeowners who chose Monroe for its strong schools, like many people here tonight, my wife and I urge you to restore the full Board of Ed budget. This is not a fiscal correction. It is a policy choice that will both harm our students and our property values. When people say Monroe schools should do more with less, this isn't efficiency, it's erosion. We're fiscally conservative people and we support responsible budgeting, but this was not a careful line-by-line review. We've not seen a single argument that the Board of Ed budget contains unnecessary spending. Instead, this was a broad, disproportionate cut that shifts the burden directly onto classrooms and students. I just want to put in perspective what was proposed. Fairfield, a larger and well-resourced town, is facing extreme backlash after a $1.5 million cut to its school budget. That reduction represented about 10% of the proposed increase, which would be roughly in line with what the Board of Ed initially removed from our budget. In Monroe, the proposed cut was approaching 50% of the superintendent's requested increase. It was a larger dollar reduction on a budget 1/3 the size of Fairfield's. Put simply, Monroe's cut was roughly 5 times more severe than what's proposed there. We're grateful for the partial restoration of the funding, but hope that this puts in context why the residents have been so outraged over what was proposed. We agree that town leadership must represent all residents, not just families with children in schools. But that's exactly why fully funding our schools matters. Strong schools benefit everyone. They're one of the primary drivers of property values and the overall health of our community. The financial reality is straightforward. The proposed cut would have saved the average homeowner in Monroe about $15 per month. But even a 1% decline in home values would cost that same homeowner over $5,000 in equity. The cut that was proposed is penny wise and pound foolish. Strong schools attract families, support local businesses, stabilize the housing market, and strengthen the tax base. Most of us chose Monroe knowing that we were paying for that value when we came to the town. If we weaken our schools, we weaken the town's appeal, and homeowners bear that cost. We're increasingly troubled as well by the pattern of cuts to the school budget that's been mentioned by other speakers. Similar cuts were proposed last year, and even after public opposition, less than half of that cut was restored. I fear we'll be back again next year doing the same thing. At the same time, independent analysis has already determined that our schools are overcrowded and in need of investment, not reduction. The budget doesn't begin to address those recommended improvements to our schools. My kids only have 2 more years in our schools, so I'm standing here as a parent that will tell you that I will be back here every year after they graduate because the investing in our schools benefits the town, whether we have children in them or not. Finally, as others have mentioned, Monroe's referendum process gives residents a unique ability that many towns don't have, where we can decide if a budget is too high. If the budget's excessive, voters will reject it, as we have seen in past years. We're asking you to let the people of Monroe make that choice. Our schools are the foundation of this community. Please restore the full Board of Education budget and give our children and our town the investment they deserve. Thank you for your time.
I'm Dave Walker. I live at 86 Hillcrest over in Stetton, and I've been there over 30 years. My wife and I moved here with our young children. In those days, we didn't Google it, but it looked like a great community where we could grow our family and raise our kids. And it was, and it still is. My kids graduated from Massac almost 20 years ago. I did my son's students present that one of them was the student rep to the Board of Education. So I'm one of those senior citizens with no kids in school, trying to stretch my retirement income, hoping it lasts as long as I do. I still support education for your kids, for all our kids and our families. Strong educational and social experience that my kids had in Monroe Public Schools. I want to be an old man in a town full of kids like that. I'm prepared to pay my share for that. With so many speakers coming before me, some of them better speakers and more intelligent, I need to kind of cut down a little bit rather than repeat things that other people have already said. But as the first selectman pointed out in some of his first remarks, that we all know that the taxes are going up for multiple reasons, and reevaluation is one. We know there are costs that are going up just to maintain consistent services and programs for the town as well as for the schools. That nobody wants to cut services and programs, so yes, we're just going to have to pay for it. But I think really it's important to think about 2 questions here, and the obvious one is how much more do we have to pay? But I think maybe the next most urgent question in the process is who decides? And Of course, you all know that a few years ago, we voted against a charter amendment to eliminate the budget referendum. In effect, the Monroe voters said that we should decide on the budget. And this year, the proposed education budget was already tight. The increase reflected increased costs, really not program expansions. So if we cut that request, we cut programs and staff. So I was really very happy when I heard Mr. Rooney say that he's already rethought that 1.6 and is talking about more like about a 0.4, if I got it right, maybe in round numbers. But still, if we cut that, we'll cut programs and staff, and that's the wrong direction. As a lot of people have pointed out, those cuts will impact our kids, our families, our property values, and our community. And to what benefit? Having gotten down from like maybe the 1.6 to something like a 0.4, I think now it works out to we're talking about a difference on average of about $1 a week for an average household in Monroe. So is that really a cut we need to make? If one way or another, I think it's premature because the voters should decide whether to approve the budget as presented by the Board of Education. A couple of other commenters have observed. If it doesn't pass, then would be the time to discuss what and where and how much we need to cut. That is if the voters decide it's too high. So I just want to appeal to the board tonight to respect the process and the voters and is moving ahead into public comment and workshops and all the other things that have to happen to try to restore the full Board of Education request in the proposed budget and give us a chance to step up and approve it at referendum. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nina Gagnon, 160 Pepper Street. Today, I speak to you not only about the value of education in Monroe. We all know that our schools are amazing despite the consistent cuts year after year. Raise your hand if you came to Monroe for the schools. That should speak for itself. But no, today I am coming here to implore you to put an advisory question on the ballot. I'm a math interventionist at STEM Academy in Monroe. And although in my capacity, I don't give out tests anymore, I still use tests. Tests provide feedback for students, but they can also inform teachers on what didn't stick or what we need to adjust in our lesson plans. This is the same for our town budget. Each year, we have a test, and it's a yes or no question. Do we want to accept the budget or not? When you only get a yes or no answer, it doesn't tell you much. If someone says yes, votes yes, did they say yes because they approve of the budget? Or did they say yes because they are afraid that if we say no, the town will cut more? If they say no, is it because they automatically think it's too high? Is it possible they voted no because they want to invest more in our town? You simply cannot tell that with a yes or no question. The advisory question will teach the town about what exactly our citizens want. Let us tell you what we really want by adding the advisory question. Is the budget too high, too low, or just right? Thank you.
Is there Mike?
Hello, my name is Mike Rubin, 51 Longview Road. Tonight, I speak to you, to the board, as a parent, a resident, a volunteer, and most importantly, a taxpayer. The schools here, as you've heard, are the linchpin. And it's wonderful that the first selectman has recommended to reduce the cut to approximately $500,000. It is still a cut. It is still going below what we're trying to maintain. What the original budget was to maintain the status quo. I worked previously as an admissions counselor for many years before transitioning to my current position at Deloitte. One of the things I looked for, fundamental, were two of the key things that the budget cuts will hurt. One, diversity in a student's extracurriculars and their coursework. Losing staff, losing resources are going to result in less electives, less AP exams, which in turn is going to take Monroe off the map in Connecticut for a town I want to raise a family in, which will, to Mr. Rooney's point, make it more difficult to bring in businesses, to bring in other revenue sources. The College Board, the National Association of Collegiate Commissions Counselors, all of them every year constantly post articles upon articles stating how important diversity of education and electives are. The same can be said also about a key study from the International Journal of Exercise Science from January of 2014. This is a key resource in the argument of sports participation reflecting an increase in not only student athletes and grades, but also development of leadership skills, cut down on truancy, higher graduation rates with higher overall GPAs. All of these cuts are on the board, even at $500,000. What I'm asking the Board of Finance to do is be transparent. Put it out to the town to vote. Put, as Nina said, the question so we have data to analyze. And more importantly, I ask the Board of Finance to look deeply at a line by line of the budget across the board and ask the hard questions. Ask, why is this on here? Do I need $10,000 or can we do it with 8? Because historically, you've only used 5. This is important work that I know you guys can do, and we will support you in the community. You see us all here tonight. We will help if you need us to, but you got to give us the information. Thank you all for your time.
Anna Gomez. Mark Zurich.
Hi there. My name is Mark Zurich. I'm at 228 Web Circle. Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight. While I am passionate about funding education, my words tonight are not passionately driven. They are mathematical. While most of the figures I'm going to cite below are estimates based on the originally proposed budget reduction, they still illustrate what I believe to be a fundamental flaw in the proposed budget's stated goals. And in fact, my argument gets stronger if the education underfunding is reduced to the approximate $400,000 the first selectman communicated in his remarks earlier. On page 11 of the budget proposal, first selectman says, and I quote, "The town of Monroe has maintained a strong fund balance. Therefore, I am requesting that $2,706,000 be returned to the taxpayers from the general fund." Also on page 11, you say, and I quote, "This budget reflects an increase in our investment of education of $2 million over the current year. which shows Monroe's commitment to investing in education, understanding education's impact on home values, and the overall importance education has in our Monroe community. You had also initially proposed a reduction of funds from the requested amount for education in $1,603,230. The $2.7 million in taxpayer returned funds would result in about $35 refunded to Monroe households on average per month. The $1.6 million to fully fund education would cost on average about $19 per household per month. If it were only $400,000, as the first selectman indicated earlier this evening, that would cost less than $5 per household per month to fund at the superintendent's requested amount. This seems to have a very simple solution. Why not fully fund education for that $5 per household per month and instead return $30 per household per month in the refunded taxpayer dollars instead of $35? The town is doing well enough financially that your proposed budget allots $2.7 million to be returned to the taxpayers. And the first selectman stated that education plays an important role in the community and in home values. How is the town's finances healthy enough to refund $2.7 million, but not healthy enough to use substantially less than that $2.7 million towards fully funding education? This will improve education in our town and raise property values, both of which are explicitly noted as important to the first selectman. Not funding education seems contradictory to the first selectman's own stated goals. And I am comfortable giving up a cup of coffee per month so that we can close the $400,000 gap communicated tonight. I would like to ask the room by a show of hands, including the first selectman and the board tonight, would you give up a cup of coffee per month? I'll give him $50 right here. Thank you very much for your time.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to participate? Yeah, come on. Hi, just state your name and address.
Michael Dono, 5 Great Hollow Drive. So last year was the first meeting I had ever attended, and I unexpectedly was moved to speak, and I spoke as a father of 2 children at Stepney Elementary who benefited from special education team there as well as the Monroe L. And it was very emotional, and all of that's still true, and it was echoed very similarly by others tonight. So I'm going to let that stay, and I'm going to step back and put on another hat and speak to you as a CPA and some of the 15 years of audit and corporate finance experience. This year, I did a little deeper dive into the budget, and a lot of the comments were just covered very well. We're all talking about the cuts to education, and we all want that restored. I think that's obvious. But just looking into the total budget, I have some other questions. I agree with the first selectman and the town council's intent to minimize the tax burden on the residents. But I don't understand, especially given all the increasing costs that we all experience everywhere, gas station, grocery store, all that. We all want to manage our costs. And I know he's doing that for the taxpayers. But I don't understand the decisions made that are reflected in the current budget. For example, the adjustments, which have now been minimized, so I got to rerun all my numbers. But forget about the reduction then. Let's just look at the proposed budget to really put context to those adjustments. you need to look at the proposed budgets from the departments themselves. The Board of Ed budget was the most conservative budget at a 4.8% increase. While all the municipal departments, they had increases ranging from 4.8 all the way up to like 23%. It's very large. For a total increase, excluding debt costs, of 12%. If the Board of Education proposed 12%, there would be a much bigger cut. After the adjustments, the municipal budget increase, excluding debt service costs, came down to 8%. That is still well above what the Board of Ed had even begun asking. So it seems like there's a disproportionate approach to the budget process. Obviously, there's different drivers for both. But, sorry, train of thought. So what I would, and the previous speaker's point, we say the budget reflects the commitment to education. I don't think that's accurate given how it stands. If we're saying the municipal departments can't function and provide the same services they did last year with anything less than an 8% increase in cost, how are we going to ask the Board of Ed to continue to provide services at 4.5%? So it just seems inconsistent. And I would like you to restore the full Board of Education budget and let the voters decide. And if there are also further cuts to benefit the town at the municipal budget level, we should also look at that. We're all talking about education, not cutting it, but if we want to let's take a balanced approach and look at that 8% increase and see if there's anything that can be saved there as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening. We've been at this for a while now, haven't we? Debbie Malowicki, PO Box 4012, Vita Stone said that's okay. Checking in advance there. I'm a multi-generational resident of Monroe. Generation 5, Generation 6 sitting behind me in the audience. Did I come here for the schools? No. Did I choose to stay here for them? Absolutely, yes. And I also made a choice in 2020 to move my educational support services business here. I think it's a good choice. And it's one that I chose to renew again in the last year when we seriously looked at moving out of district. Thank you, Mr. First Selectman, for the reduction that you proposed tonight. I appreciate it. I'm going to be honest, I want it all back, okay? And I want some beyond that. Here's the reason that I say this. These are slightly different stats, okay? This is US News and World Report. This past year, Massac High School, and I'm focusing a little there because kid in the audience, freshman. Massac High School ranked 56th in the state of Connecticut out of our high schools. We ranked 3,019th nationally. College readiness, 31st in the state. Assessment proficiency, 48th. Can we take a little moment to go back through time? 2022, Massac ranked 35th in the state, 1,708 in the country. We dropped 1,311 spots in 3 years. 2019, we ranked 33rd in the state. 2016, we ranked 1,484th in the country. 1,535 spots lost in 9 years. Mr. Cobza, I don't want your budget restored. I want it increased through the roof.
To be fair, Master got an excellent principal in 2016.
Name and
Greg
address.
Winters, 101 Ridgedale Road.
Right.
Parent of two children that had Mr. Kobza as principal. My wife and I have been longtime educators in neighboring communities for over 30 years. And I was inspired to just come up after what the last person said, because any cut to a program has long-term unexpected consequences that you can't foresee. And a couple of years ago, COVID took everything, took us all by surprise. And her numbers reflect what most educators that I work with have seen, the unexpected reality of what rapid change does. And, you know, we plan as best we can, but there is always going to be something that is unexpected. So if we don't have an immediate crisis right now that needs to be addressed with any reduction, I would highly recommend that, you know, we save that for a potential future crisis and continue funding the strong programs, because once you start cutting, you can't just rebuild a program. It just doesn't happen that fast. All right? Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Jennifer Aguilar, 32 Surrey Lane. I had something written down like Dave Walker because I'm an old person and I don't have it on my phone. So, and I lost it in the parking lot. So somebody will probably find it and post it or whatever. Thank you for everything you do. I know you work hard. I know you're putting in a lot of hours. Thank you for everything you do. What I wanted to talk about was when I moved here. I moved here 24 years ago. We lived in Norwalk. We chose Monroe out of the recommendation of the schools. The schools back then had language in 5th grade. The schools back then had band in elementary school. They had a gifted program. They had a lot. And then, was it 15 years ago, 2009, maybe? And by the way, the schools back then had 8 to 9% budget increases. That passed. That I don't know how many years, but that was the budget increase. Then we hit, I don't know, financial everything, probably 2008 hit. And we started cutting education. And we had a magic number of 3%. And every year, the schools had to go down to below 3% because that was the magic number. They tried to do the budget as it was in the past, didn't pass. We went through, I think, 5 referendums one year. Spent money on those referendums. And budget passed at 2 point blah, 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 whatever. That's when it passed. I'm tired of always doing this same old thing. I have talked about this issue for 15 years, trying to fight for my kids. I'm not fighting for my kids anymore. I'm fighting for their kids. I don't want to see the budget reduced at all. I'm with who said they want the budget upped. I'm with her. We are missing. Every night I watch the local news and I see what's happening in our schools. I'm not seeing it anymore in Monroe. We used to have Minds in Motion. We used to have so many programs in the schools that we can't do anymore. The teachers are over-regulated. They have to do too much data, too much everything. They don't have time to do things after school. We cut their budgets, we cut the teachers. Back then, we had class sizes of 18, 19 kids.
When the budget started going down, class sizes went up to 24, 25 kids. Unsustainable, unsustainable. Now that I'm working in a school, all these educators in the room, thank you. Because I don't know how it's the hardest job I've ever had. It's emotionally hard, physically hard, and telling these teachers they're not doing enough and we're going to cut you. You again.
Thank you.
Megan Bridgman, 17 Braylock Way. As many other people before me spoke, I've been standing in the back. I moved here for the schools in 2018. As somebody who works in finance as a chief accounting officer for the last 25 years, prepares my own budgets and sits in every single budget meeting in a multi-billion company organization globally around the world. I understand it's hard. I understand there are cuts. I understand what goes into a budget. I understand what departments do to a budget, and I understand we ultimately have to evaluate it line by line by line. Someone who has also been an auditor, I've audited organizations, not-for-profits. I understand numbers. I understand that. I also understand we do not cut what provides value to an organization. How do I get back? How do I gain market share? How do we grow? How do we be better? How do we get us back as the #1 market share? We fund what drives us. We fund what provides value. What provides value in every town across America is the education. As everyone has said here, and the numbers and the data-driven analytics, that's what we do. We invest in a department to do data-driven analytics. So the global organization has this information. Listening to some of the data that I've heard here tonight, some that I've seen as I've been digging in this year, is staggering. It's dramatic, and it is the direct result of the budget cuts over the last few years. Without restoring the full budget, and yes, I'm supportive of increasing that budget because that is what is going to restore Monroe, move us back up the ranks. We need to look across the other side. Where can we make cuts? There was very reasonable proposals shot down, not even considered. We need to go back to the drawing board. We need to look across all departments. Where can we make cuts? And then we need to bring it to the town to vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not something that I really do
Just
want.
name and address.
But yes, I'll get to that. German Gaviria 122, Turkey Reese Road. This should be like Pentagon money, like DOJ money. There's no reason why there should be any cuts. We moved here out of mere coincidence. Driving from Stowe, Vermont, frustrated after losing on the closing, we decided to buy a house because we practice a certain belief and the conditions for the house are very particular. Long and behold, did we find out later, or did I find out, that the school district in Monroe is the type of school district that's perfect for our kids. We have 4 children who are all autistic. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the educators here, including Mr. Kobza, know exactly who our kids are. And this doesn't go for just our kids, my kids. This goes for everybody's kids. There shouldn't be it's like a small business going to a bank, and the bank every single time it tells them, no, sorry, you're too new. Or sorry, we don't have the money. Or sorry, you don't qualify. So at some point, the business fails. So this shouldn't be a choice of a board or a few people deciding what happens with the money. If I pay taxes in this town, I should have the ability to decide what goes into education. And not for nothing, I think education paramounts anything else. First response, police, EMS, and all that other stuff. Because a well-educated community gets further in life.
You got to think that people like to invest where they feel comfortable. And if we don't feel comfortable as parents because everything keeps on getting cut, then we go somewhere else. We go to New Canaan. Don't know if many people here know. The town has a surplus of north of $100 million. Has anybody looked into that part? I don't know. I did. Why are we cutting? What is it that we're doing here? I mean, this at this point isn't a game. This is our kids. It's crazy that we go to functions and we hear kids or teachers, educators saying, I had to use my stipend money to go and buy tools, to go and buy supplies, to go and buy stuff for the kids. I'm sorry. I'm not rich. I barely make probably close to $100,000. I don't think many teachers here make north of 100 or educators. But if they do, God bless them. They should all get paid $200,000 or more a year. We learned during the pandemic that we take off our hats to moms and educators because we all saw what COVID did, right? We all thought we were going to homeschool our kids forever. No, that doesn't work. The job that they have to put up with students is a lot. And to put up with their parents, if I say that and speak for that. But look, in essence, the reality is there's no reason why we should be cutting anything. I mean, if the school spends, in 2 years per year, spends $100 million, next year give it $120 million. The money is there. The money is there. If it's, I don't know what the numbers precisely are, but if Mr. Kabza and this whole entire school system needs $10 million, give it 15. No, this is actually ironically not funny. What it is that you're having teachers, educators saying, I have to take money out of my salary to go and pay for stuff for your kids. And I'm like, well, as a community, here's $100. I mean, how else can I give you money? But yet, wait, hold on a second. Our mill rate goes up. Our taxes went from $9,500 to $14,000. If I would have never gone to the town and made us think about it, I would have been paying $14,000 a year. And wait, hold on. We have busted sidewalks. Our park has busted sidewalks. Our pool is full of mold. And we're building a brand new basketball court. But wait, so what are we doing? And we're cutting the budget and the money from the school kids? You guys need to reevaluate this and really sit down and come up with a realistic number and give these educators exactly every single thing that they need nickel for nickel. And if they come up with receipts, I'm the first parent that will tell you, please refund them every single penny that they spent, because no educator should be spending money out of their pocket for a pencil. They shouldn't. Give them raises and give them what they want, because we want our kids to stay here. It's the only way that the town will grow the right way. Educated kids make a big difference. Thank you for everybody.
Anyone else in the room that would like to participate? All right. Do we have two people?
Two people with their hands.
Okay.
I don't know if they can hear me. Shannon Turquette.
One more in the room. All right, we'll come back.
Do you want to?
Shannon Turquette, let's see. Yeah, they've been. Still there?
Yeah, so Shannon, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Can you just state your name and address for the record?
Yes, hi, my name is Shannon Turquette. I live at 251 Hattertown. I want to thank you all for your time tonight. I really appreciate everything that you all do. And I'll be honest, I have only heard about this issue in the last 24 hours. I moved here, I guess it's been almost 4 years ago, and I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I have not been as in tune to the public education in this town in the last few years as clearly I should have been. But when we were looking at schools, we kind of drew a circle around my in-laws' houses in Monroe, my in-laws' house in Monroe, and said, okay, we need to be near here. So we looked at Trumbull, we looked at Easton, we looked at Newtown, we looked at Monroe. And we ultimately decided on Monroe because Monroe, Massac had a great number of AP classes. They had the STEM program. You guys just have so many things here that seem so outstanding. And you have such a good reputation. My husband went to school here. So we were so excited. Honey. And then to find out that there was potentially a $1.6 million budget cut, I was truly astonished. And so I started to look a little bit more into it. And to be honest, I was expecting it to be something like the school was trying to put in a new $1 million scoreboard on the football field, or they wanted to replace, laptops that had bought 2 years ago because they didn't like the brand or something, something unreasonable, or at least in my mind, something that would be unreasonable. And to find out that instead it was simply the budget to keep everything the status quo that was being rejected was just truly astonishing to me. And so again, I am not in the weeds. I am not super familiar with all of the details and the dollars and everything, but I just want to say I fully support reinstating the budget exactly as the superintendent wants it to be. I was astonished to hear about some of the programs that we used to have that we no longer have. Raise my taxes, put them back. I will happily pay for them. Raise teacher salaries. I will happily pay for them. So I just want to thank everybody for everything that they do, and especially all the educators in the room. Thank you, because I have never worked harder than when I was a teacher many years ago. So thank you for everything that you do, and thank you all for your time.
Brittany Mann.
Brittany, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I am Brittany Mann from 10 Pine Tree Road, Monroe, Connecticut. So good evening. My name's Brittany Mann, and I am a Monroe resident. And I also work in our school district as a board certified behavior analyst. But I'm speaking tonight as a resident, though my professional background shapes how I evaluate systems like this. I'm joining in remotely tonight because I'm a bit under the weather, but it was important for me to still be present and contribute to this discussion. I do understand that there is a budget-specific meeting where these topics will be discussed in more detail, but I do think it's important that some of this context is part of the conversation early as decisions are being shaped. So in behavior science, there's a field called organizational behavior management, or OBM. And through OBM, we examine how systems respond to decisions over time, what gets reinforced, what weakens, and what predictable outcomes follow. I also want to briefly acknowledge that the characterization of a community response as tribal may mean that it's people coming across perspectives coming together around something they believe matters for the stability of their town. And I don't see that as a negative. What I see throughout our town right now is alignment across families, residents, and community members, and around the long-term implications of these decisions. So I know we've heard a lot tonight about property values and tax impact and those important considerations. But I'd like to add another layer to the discussion, how these decisions function over time within the system. And I also want to briefly connect to what was mentioned about making the town more attractive to businesses. Businesses are drawn to stable, growing communities, and one of the strongest drivers of that stability is a strong school system that attracts and retains families. Families are not separate from the economy. They are the workforce, the customer base, and the long-term sustainability of a town. And I do want to acknowledge that the adjustments that have been made to the proposed reductions is a movement that matters and reflects the responsiveness in this process. At the same time, from a systems perspective, even reduced cuts still create downstream effects that are important to consider. When staffing decreases and student needs remain constant, class sizes increase, which is structural. And when class sizes increase, the classroom environment changes, which makes for more noise, more movement, more competing demands for attention. And for some students, while that's manageable, for others, it becomes a barrier to accessing instruction. Inclusive classroom environments, when appropriately supported, benefit both neurodivergent and neurotypical students. Research shows that students in inclusive settings demonstrate stronger social understanding, improved problem solving, and increased tolerance for differences, while students with additional needs show better academic and behavioral outcomes when supported within general education environments. which can also include their ability to live independently down the line and has higher rates of college attendance and graduation. Those outcomes are not automatic. They are the result of systems that are properly supported. When environments become harder to access, behavior increases. That's not a value judgment. It's a well-established relationship in behavioral science. And when behavior increases, teacher time shifts. Less time is spent on instruction, more on regulation, redirection, and management. So what begins as staffing reduction becomes an instructional reduction. That matters not only academically, but legally. Under federal law, students are entitled to a free, appropriate public education, meaning they must be able to meaningfully access their education with appropriate supports. When districts lose the capacity to provide those supports within their classrooms, those needs do not disappear. They reappear somewhere else in the system. Sometimes that looks like increased support needs, sometimes additional services, and in some cases, outplacement. In Connecticut, districts spend hundreds of millions of dollars annually on outplacement tuition and transportation when students cannot be supported in a district. There are also workforce implications. When class sizes increase, supports decrease, and demands rise, working conditions change. Research shows that districts spend thousands to tens of thousands of dollars replacing each teacher who leaves, in addition to their salaries. So from a systems perspective, that is not simply a cost-saving decision, it's a cost-shifting decision. We are not eliminating costs, we are changing where and how they show up. And the question is not whether those costs will return, it's in what form they return and at what cost when they do. In my work, when I support behavior, I don't focus on what should have been available. I work with what is in place and we build from there. Our teachers do the same every day, but there's a difference between working within constraints and continuing to remove the conditions that allow a system to function effectively. At some point, reductions begin to change the system itself. So the question before the town is not simply how to reduce spending this year. It's whether continued reductions to staffing, supports, and programming, even at a lower level, represent the sound long-term planning for a system that supports students, families, and the broader community. That is not an emotional question. It's a systems question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Patrick Egan.
Patrick, are you there?
Hang on one second.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just name and address.
Sure. My name is Patrick Egan. I live at 34 Old Colony Road, right here in Monroe, Connecticut. Like most of the people in the room tonight, we moved here for the schools. We were living in Shelton when we were going to have our first child. We decided that we wanted our firstborn to grow up and to go to school in a town with a good, strong public school program, and that is why we picked Monroe. The proposed budget cuts really upset us because when you look at the budget and we saw that other departments of people have said we're getting increases and we're increasing the number one driver that gets people to move to Monroe is our schools. And to cut it does a disservice to the town because it will affect our property values, it affects our kids' education. We should be investing in this growth. And I know Nina asked for this tonight, but I would say that if the town council believes in the budget, give us the option to vote yes or no, or I mean, too high or too low on the budget. So this way we can get feedback and data so that we can know where to go forward. So if the budget doesn't pass, as it hasn't in the past, we always slash the budget. But if people think that it's too low, we should have the option to say that in our budget. I want to thank the first selectman tonight for putting money back into the budget. I think that helps, but I really think we should be fully funding the budget because it not only affects our kids, it helps our property values, and it just makes us a great community. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for everything you do, and I appreciate you giving me time to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Grummett. I'm from 33 Hillside Lane. Why did I move to Monroe? Well, there's three places where I come up from Shelton up to my in-laws in Shelton. Monroe, Trumbull, Shelton. Shelton, great low taxes, right? Monroe, Great school system, less children per class. That's why I came. And it's slowly gotten larger and larger, our classes, because of our great school system, our great teachers. But now, how many kids are per class now? We've had, our principals have had to figure out ways to even make it more classrooms. I mean, people are throwing around things like early retirement. Okay, early retirement for the experienced people we need. I mean, he keeps on giving you the low absolute minimum, and then some. I mean, last week or 2 weeks ago was my first Board of Education meeting, where I saw people just throwing up their hands. There's nothing we could do. That's just stressing out the whole town, stressing out our families and our children. I mean, what are we going to, if somebody's going to sell their house now, what are they going to sell it for after these way too much cuts? They're going to come for our many nail salons, our pizzerias, our good pizzerias. I don't get my nails done. What are they going to come for? We don't have anything else. We come here for an education. We don't come here. Okay, some pizzerias are really. That's what we came for. And just keep stripping them down. I've seen this guy because I'm on the PTOs. I've seen this guy year after year have to just find a cut here, a cut there. We're losing certain things. Other towns are getting way ahead of us. Our neighbors are way ahead of us. I mean, we even had a couple of towns had larger increases, but we keep on cutting. The town can't keep cutting. We're going to start losing people. Any retiree, senior wants to sell their house because they're tired of freaking 2 feet of snow, nobody's going to want it. It's going to sit on the market forever, including that contractor which is planning on moving in new houses. And we don't even have room for them when we keep on putting off Chalk Hill, put off moving stuff around. Seems like there's a lot of procrastination. We have to get over it. Okay, well, that's up to you guys. It's up to the Board of Ed as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ron, last check. Anybody on there?
No one.
Anyone else in the room? All right, I'm going to close public participation. Are you all right? Do you have a question?
Yeah, no, close public participation before we not adjourn the meeting.
Okay. So it's 8:15. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and participating. We're definitely listening. We're taking in all of the information. So appreciate you being here.
I have a question, if I might manage. I just would like to clarify the numbers, Mr. First Selectman. So you are essentially suggesting now that we add back 1.2 million to bring the reduction to 403,230. Is that the right?
Based on information that was revealed in my conversation with Joe in regards to state funding and things that he needed, I felt that 1.2 million would, Joe and I agreed that would get you to where you needed to be. You were very comfortable with that. Now the Board of Finance could move further on that as well. But we felt that was appropriate at this time.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have the right numbers as I was writing things down. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you.
Thank you.